Thank you, everybody, for watching another one of my Louisiana Election Forums here on my show, William Wallace for America. This show is live right now, but you'll be able to find it in a replay on YouTube and Rumble after the interview. With me in this first interview is Scott Nowicki. Did I say that right, Scott?
Yeah.
You're breaking up a little bit there. Are you?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
There we go. Gotcha. Perfect. Got a little worried there for a second. Did I say that name right? Nowicki?
You sure did. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Well, Scott, I want to thank you so much for not only being on the show, but I want to thank you for throwing your hat in the ring, because I think when more people put themselves out there, they're not only showing that they care about their community, they're showing that they care about their state. And I want to talk a little bit about your background before we talk about why you're running for office. So what did you do before you decided to run for office?
Yeah, so my first career was I was a United States Army officer. I retired as a major. I flew medevac helicopters in various stateside posts, Bosnia, and then Iraq in 2003 for the invasion. I went to work for a major corporation after that in 2005, and then moved in different places in the Pac Northwest, Hawaii, and really became involved in government at the local levels, municipalities in Washington State and then Oregon.
So why'd you get involved at the level in the States?
Yeah, so ended up, since I retired outside Fort Lewis, we were living in DuPont, Washington, and I've had this need to serve, and that continued after the military, that I just wasn't feeling. I wanted to be more part of the community, part of solutions. My wife and I have been married 28 years now, and during that time leading up to my retirement, I'd been deployed 19 out of the last 36 months, and we had 2 children. And so I was looking at their future and trying to get involved. The city of DuPont, Washington had a city council position that became available. And I thought, why not go and interview with the city council and finish out that appointment and then run for city council a second term in a few months. And so that's what I did. And I was appointed to the city council there, and then ran for election, was reelected for a term.
So what made you decide to move to Louisiana?
Yeah, so after moving around the Pac Northwest, I think we moved about 11 times in our marriage. Our home, I was born in Savannah, Georgia, raised in Southeast Alabama at Fort Rucker. Both of my father and my wife's father were Army aviators, and Fort Rucker is the home of Army aviation there. So that's where I was raised. And then we're out there in the Pac Northwest, and we decided we wanted to come back closer to home. And we found that Louisiana had a great culture, history, and various events. And I said, if we're going to put down a homestead, something that we could provide for our kids and grandkids to come back to, well, we gave them a great experience moving all over from Hawaii to Texas to Washington, Oregon, all these different places. I want a place that we could call home, and Louisiana fit that bill. So we found an opportunity to move to Louisiana, sight unseen. We took it. We came back to take a house hunting tour. We fell in love the first day we were here.
So you didn't have a job offer or anything like that here. You just said, that's where we're moving.
We had an opportunity that we were looking at. We hadn't been accepted to that opportunity at the time, and we were accepted shortly thereafter, but we never looked back. We were moving regardless. We just loved it. Our first experience was on the lakefront at Old Mandeville, and the clouds parted, the sun came through, and that's a true story. And it was just felt really good at the time.
So where's your wife from?
She's actually was born in California, military family, moved all around as well, and we met at Fort Rucker, Alabama.
So this is an interesting story, Scott, and I don't want to go on too much longer with it, even though I love the story, because it shows someone who's been all over the country, and you chose Louisiana at a time when we have a lot of people leaving our state for economic and political reasons. You actually chose to move here and make this not only home, but where you want to be forever. So you're not only running for office because you're just somebody who says you can fix things. You're running for office because you said you made the conscious decision to raise your family here, and you really want to put an investment in here to fixing it. Is that correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. We had an opportunity to become a police commissioner and also the city budget chair for the city of Eugene, Oregon, leading up to our move here. So that was a $758 million budget. And being a police commissioner at a time when all the defund police movement started, when I moved to Louisiana, I thought, wow, this is a great place. Let's get involved. And we started working with other candidates for different offices in 2019 and helped them. And then we started during COVID seeing things happen. And this being our home, we're not going to move again. We decided we wanted to fight. And with that background of having been in those two positions recently, and you look at the issues that are facing Louisiana, from budget to crime, education, those things, it falls in line with my background and the solutions we've made in some of those other places that we live.
I'm still amazed by you being a helicopter pilot and a career Army officer. That's amazing in itself. We can talk about that another time, because before I want to make sure we get to those other things. So is it obvious already why you're running for office, or is there another catalyst that made you want to run for office?
Really, again, moving 11 times and wanting to put the homestead, creating a homestead for our family, and then looking around, we found the same things that so many of our neighbors and friends in the community have found. So when our daughter graduated from college, instead of coming back here and living in the area close by where we can visit and have our grandkids one day, she found an opportunity in Dallas, Texas. And she's been promoted twice in 18 months. I don't know that there's very many opportunities currently in Louisiana that you can actually do that. Graduate from college, find a great opportunity, get promoted, and have opportunities in front of you in the next year or so. And so I think if we're going to build a home here and we want to create a better environment for folks in Louisiana and our neighbors and friends, let's go ahead and start working on creating opportunities here and build our home and bring people back to our state. We have so many different resources than any of the other states I've lived in. It's just a matter of better managing those and creating a better business climate, a more friendly environment with taxation and some other things to keep people here, because the state has everything that we need to be successful.
You see it for all the good that it is, and you've seen other places on what they have, and you're trying to build that here in Louisiana. What do you think? What are the major problems you think that is facing Louisiana?
Well, I think education first is a major issue, and it's not just a new issue. It's, if you go back to the legislative record over the last 10 years, it's the same. And where have we been the best in education? Is it 47, 46, 45? We've been at the bottom for a while. We need to correct that. And then two is opportunities. If we could look at what they've done in the Golden Triangle of Mississippi, in the Columbus area, they've created an area where they had low education and low incomes, and now they're some of the highest educated and highest income, and they did that over 5 years. And they're saying, don't judge us on the last 5 years, let's judge us on the next 5 years. So I think we can do the same thing here if we create opportunities and we create a competitive environment for those opportunities, that our schools and everything will perform better. So there's opportunities for us. If we're going to move away, what are we? It's hard to create something when we don't have the best education or opportunities to stay here. People are going to go other places. We got to change that.
And you have a plan for all of this.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
And you have a plan for all this. Have you put some thought behind some? I know you got these ideas of what's wrong, but do you have some ideas on how you'll fix it?
Yes, I think a couple of things we can do. I think we have to look at cutting some regulation in our businesses. And it takes more hours to become a florist than a police officer. You can go down the line in different areas and say, why is that? Just to be a hairdresser, I was getting my haircut just the other day, and I asked how many hours it took, and how did she get her license? And it was more hours. I could not believe it. That's just to become someone that can cut someone's hair. And we need to look at how those licenses are put into place and make it easier for people to do business, easier for them to create a business and provide an income for their families. We need to look at taxation and say, hey, why would I have an inventory tax when I've already paid taxes on those items? And look at all around us, all the states around us have automobile manufacturing. They have aircraft manufacturing. Why doesn't Louisiana? We have air bases that have been closed. We have plenty of land for these things. We have the opportunity to bring some of those businesses here. But if we're competing with the other states around us and they have better taxation, it's hard to bring them into our state.
I agree with you 100% there. And I love, I've been hearing some of these same things over and over again with a lot of people that are running for office right now, that these are the things that we need to do. And everybody's asking, well, why in the world haven't we done it before? And do you have an answer for why it hasn't been done before, or will your answer reflect on the trying to guess at what our next legislature is going to look like?
I think we have to have a team that works together. And I think if you look at the last, since at least 2020, you had a lot of Republicans think that, all right, we have that super majority, we can move things through. And we didn't get the vetoes, overrides of some of the things we were looking at. So we have to create a team working together to move the needle in the right direction. So building bridges instead of divide, finding out from local leaders where we want these different industries to come into our state and how to create opportunity and what communities are best suited for these opportunities. You know, if you're located next to a major highway, or you're located next to a river, or those things that enable a business to grow, and then have people out there that are willing to sell those opportunities to businesses looking to find a better place for their corporate headquarters, their manufacturing, and have the business environment headed in the right direction. So I think just let's have conversations. Let's have conversations with each other. Let's have conversations with our communities, and let's listen to what the people want and bring what they want forward, and stop trying to get in the way of standard politics and regulation and what we've done in the past, and say, let's do something different for a change, because we can go back and look. And you're exactly right. I've heard another candidate say, and they were running for governor, everybody's saying the same thing. And I hear people talking to me say, well, you guys all seem to be about the same. Well, look, as a conservative that served in Eugene, Oregon, we were able to have conversations. We were able to move the needle. And one of the things that we did before I left was fund our police department on the West Coast during the defund police as that was growing. So I think we have demonstrated an ability to do things that haven't been done before. And I think it can be done again. It just takes people talking to people and continuing that push and not stepping back from looking out for what people want. And they are desperately looking for leadership out there and moving the needle in a positive way. And I'll be the first to say, if things don't change, or if you don't believe they'll change if you elect me, then you probably shouldn't vote for me. But I think we have to vote for people that you think are going to move Louisiana forward. And at the end of 4 years, something should be better.
And you know what else I think we need? And Scott, your conversation is, I'm going to give you, I always give my guest credit when I get an idea with that guest. And you gave me an idea, you know, if we're going to have a super majority of Republicans, that's the way it's looking, that we're going to have, you know, maintain or add Republicans in seats in the legislature and the Senate. And it looks like we're going to have a Republican governor. What I think legislators need most is confidence. Not that all of them, but there's many leaders, many of our elected officials are going to need the confidence to say, you know what, now that we've got the majority, we need to, you know, take a step off the, I guess, take a leap of faith, if you will, that the things that we've been saying, the things that we've been hearing, we need to just do it and go forward, because doing the same thing that we've been doing over and over again and is not getting any new results. We need to do more bold things that we've been talking about and are mirroring the things that we've been talking about. You know, one of the things that I point out is that we're losing freedom in America. On my other shows, I regularly talk about where we're losing freedom in America. And I think we lose freedom with bureaucracy, growing government, like you said, regulations, that kind of thing. But I also think we're losing freedom in the way our government spends our money. And so as a result of things that have happened in the last legislative session, and you don't have to say whether you voted on the spending cap or anything like that, but based on what I just now said, how will you put freedom first in your decisions when you're in the legislature?
Well, I think you have to look at every tax dollar as your neighbor's money, your own money first and foremost. And would I spend that money in that way? And what is the return on investment for that money? If I don't expect a certain result that the state is going to benefit from, the community is going to benefit from, then why are we spending that money?
I love it. All right. Any other final words there? The last session ended in a debacle. You know, we need confidence, we need courage, we need conservative, valued leadership, and we need freedom, liberty-minded people leading first. Are you going to use those principles to help be a leader in the legislature?
Absolutely. And what I also will bring is a degree of excitement. I love Louisiana. I think it's great. I think more people need to be raising their hand and say, yes, you know, Louisiana is wonderful. We're going to go forward and we're going to get the spring back in our steps. and we're going to show the other states around us that, hey, look what's going on over there. We want to be more like Louisiana.
I love it. As a major in the military, helicopter pilot, we're going to talk about that off camera another time there. Scott, my next guest is on. I want to thank you so much for being on today. Okay. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to meeting you again soon. Okay.
Hey, thank you. Looking forward to seeing you again. Take care.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Hey, Jennie, how are you today?
Hey, William. Good to see you.
Great to see you. I love your smile.
Well, you're a mess. You're a mess, William.
Well, you come on the show and you instantly have this big smile on your face. And I will tell you this, the part of the reason I'm pointing it out is not only because I love it when people look happy and they're smiling. It has a lot to say about your inside, inside person. But when I met you the other night at the Freedom Caucus event, you had a smile on your face and you have a warmth about you. And I'm just wanting to give that personal testimony because I think other people need to know that as you and I talk about your election.
Thank you very much, William. That's very encouraging. And those are good words to hear. Thank you.
So Jennie Seals, what district are you running for? I see it in the background, but
District 70.
Okay.
District 70 in the Baton Rouge area.
All right. So Jennie, let's talk a little bit about your background. What did you do before you decided to run for office?
So many different things. I mean, I was born and I grew up in Baton Rouge, and then I went to college and did some work here after college as a life insurance salesman. Then I was a flight attendant for 25 years. And then I have, since being a flight attendant, retiring a little bit early, I've done many different things. I've worked for the YMCA. I've worked for hospice organization as a chaplain. I've worked with the Baton Rouge Airport as a chaplain. And then I've helped people with their lawn care. My mother's friends needed help, and so I began to help them because my whole heart about Louisiana or anything else I do is service. I love to serve. In fact, you know what, William? I bought a pickup truck about a few years ago when one of the hurricanes took out my van because I wanted a vehicle that could be used for service, whatever that meant. I work with international students who need furniture moved, who need help going places. And my truck has been moved many pieces of furniture and helped people do all kinds of work. So my whole heart is serving. So I'd love to be a part of serving Louisiana at another level.
It's interesting because as you were telling me all these things before you said service, in my mind I went, she believes in service. and let me tell you something, that's not only important. I mean, look, it's cliche-ish to say, oh, we should serve our fellow man. We should do a better job serving our communities. But the reality is, you're doing it. I mean, you've been doing it. There's a lot to say about that testament when you can show the jobs that you've had all center more around service than they do a lifelong uber profitable career. I mean, it's like not that you didn't make money. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like you said I was a doctor, I was a lawyer. I worked for 30 years in this organization, became CEO. I mean, like most of your jobs involve service, and unfortunately, the way our economy works, service doesn't always translate into financial rewards, but it does reward yourself, and it also rewards our community. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like to see in somebody. So talk to me a little bit. So what made you decide to want to run for state rep?
Well, I've been praying for the country for years. There's several organizations locally where we pray for the country, and we're very proactive going to the Capitol to stand for bills that are righteous and good for the community and the state. So I've been doing that for 4 or 5 years, and before that for about 20 years, praying for the nation and the state. So when I was at a meeting, someone asked if there was anybody at the meeting that would be interested in running in the District 70 for state rep. And I was in that meeting and happened to live here. So I raised my hand and they said, well, would you consider, some people asked me if I'd consider it, and I had not considered it. Yet I had been asking the Lord, what else can I do to help my state and my country? So I prayed about it. God said, go forward by faith. And then I was approached by some businessmen who said, you know what, Jennie, I think because of your righteous stand on governing and all the other issues we have, you're the kind of person that could really make a difference. So would you seriously consider running? We'll support you. And I said, absolutely. And they teamed up around me and have helped me the last 3 months. Neighbors, it's amazing, William, the provision of God for every kind of help I've needed, including this computer. People have helped put my life together for this run, and it has been an incredible privilege to work alongside of the people. Already, I'm seeing what it looks like to work for the community and with the community for the betterment of the community.
You know, I'll tell you. Did you know that I ran for state rep 4 years?
No.
Yes, I did. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and I'm going to give you an extra couple of minutes because if I'm going to talk too, I'm going to give you an extra few minutes here.
Super. Okay.
So when I ran for state rep 4.5 years ago, whatever it was, well, before that, let's go. I'll take a step back. When I started my radio show, I wanted to be the next right-wing conservative talk show host. And I did that for 3 or 4 years. And I really, be honest with you, I felt like I was repeating narratives instead of being fulfilled by doing any kind of help for my community, my country, or my state or my country. And so I felt like when the opportunity to run for state rep came along, I felt like that was my next opportunity to serve or to do something. So I went out and I knocked on every single door in the district, single district, right? And now I did lose the campaign, of course, but what I did was I met some of the most genuine, honest, great, wonderful, even not great people, even just average people, even people that were really nice when I knocked on the door. But you know what I found out with everybody is that the people that I thought I'd be the most different from, I found that we're all more alike than we realize.
Yes.
And from that, I rededicated my show to finding things that we can unite on to solve problems in our community. Because the best way to solve the problems in our country is to start in our community. And that sounds like what you're doing. And I hope you find that fulfillment as you're knocking on doors. But I don't want to take up your interview with my stories because I want to find out what else caused you to run for office. What was the real catalyst? Was there a moment where you said, you know what made you when they said we need somebody to run for office? What was it that actually made you decide to run for office?
But to tell you the truth, William, when I saw the deterioration of our education system and our economy, when I saw possible farmland being bought out from entities outside of our state that were not for our best, when I understood at the legislature that there was some dishonest and manipulative things going on that were not for the betterment of the citizens, I was getting kind of fired up about that. And I thought, I really want to stop the illegal activity happening on all the 7 pillars of our society: education, arts and entertainment, media. I got sick of propaganda from the media. And I thought, how can we get the truth to the people unless someone that is in office that will share the truth consistently and represent the truth to their constituents and on their constituents' behalf? So I got pretty fired up about all that and more.
All and more. Well, we'll have to hear what the more part is when we have more time. Also, and if we end up having more time here in a few minutes, you can tell me what the more is. So hold that, put a little bookmark on the more.
Yes, sir. Bookmark done.
So you decided to run for office. What do you think are the major problems that Louisiana is faced with? Even if there might be some minor problems, but what do you think are the major problems that come to your mind that Louisiana is faced with?
Besides integrity in government, which is huge, because you can pass all the bills you want under the sun, but if you have no men and women that are going to cause those to go forward with integrity, then the bills are a moot point. But our economy's a mess. Our small businesses have been affected by the COVID shutdown and the illegal mandates that occurred during that time. Our education system has been severely impacted, not only from the COVID shutdown and the illegal activity of the government to citizens about vaccines and masks, because that affected people with depression and other emotional issues, which affected their businesses and their families, and has brought a lot of despair on the people. But besides that, crime is at an all-time high here. I don't know if we're number 1 or number 2 in the country for crime. And you think, how can that be stopped? Are these kids not getting the opportunity to get educated and look at a future? So they go to drugs and criminal activity to live their lives. And how can we stop that and turn it around? Because this state, when I grew up, was not like this. It's been since 1970 that a lot of this criminal activity and becoming the number 1 state in crime has occurred. So I guess that is the last 50 years, but it's not necessary. So crime and the economy, and I see so many empty buildings. I'm thinking, what happened to our gas and oil industry? What happened to the prospering state that we've been? And I thought, I've got to make a difference. I'm not sure what all that looks like, but I know many things have got to change in order to lift us up as a state from the bottom up to the top where we should be.
That's a great way to put that. Now, what I also appreciate is the fact when you say you look around all the abandoned buildings, that's something you're kind of shining a light on. Is there's a lot of real estate in Louisiana that's not being used, yet we hear of government always trying to create more real estate or more buildings instead of using that's a resource that goes untalked about, if you will. And you kind of brought that up. You talked about crime, and what interests me is when people talk about crime when you're running for state rep, crime is usually more. Actually, it's the focus is local. When you have the
Mm-hmm.
local sheriffs, the local parish councils, they can have more of a hand on crime. They can focus more. As a state rep, you got to kind of look at things on a more broad scale. You guys,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I will, what, can I create a bill that is going to be voted on by everybody around the state in such a way that's actually going to solve crime problems, not only locally, but on a state level. So it's hard for you as a state rep to do something in crime in a community. Are there any other crime bills or ideas that you may have that you think would help not only in our communities, but on a state level?
Well, two things come to mind real quickly is we've got to support the police. We have to not only respect them, but give them everything they need to do their jobs safely and well. And none of this degrading of them. And we're short on policemen because we've treated them so poorly for so long instead of respecting their positions of the sacrifice of their lives. So we have to both increase and pay them what they're due. And I think a lot of the kids that go into criminal activity, maybe it's a cycle, maybe it's just a drug related, gang related
Right.
influence, but we can stop that by giving those children options, whether they come from a poor background or a wealthy background, because it's not just one kind of person, it's kids of all
Hmm.
sectors of our society. We have got to take morality and put it back in our school system. We've got to take morality, put it back in our government system, because these kids are no more catch and release. If you create a crime, you must pay for it. You can't just be sent home to twiddle your thumbs and think about it and get over it and not do it again. If you don't have consequences for your sin or your criminal activity, whatever you want to call it, you don't learn from it. And so we have got to put that back into the play of our activities as a citizenry unto one another.
Right.
And where you have neighborhood watches in all kinds of ways that the citizen police force,
Right.
if you will, can be very proactive and turn in this all around.
I love when you talk about the citizen police force here, or putting morality back into our society. And oftentimes the narrative spin on morality has been that's a far right wing, idea. And so, the right wing wants to take away all your fun. But the reality
Mm-hmm.
is, just like everybody likes to point at the states around Louisiana and say, oh, this state's doing great. We can look at all the things that they're doing that makes them great. The same with morality. We can look back 50, 60, 70 years ago when morality was a little bit more, how shall we say, prioritized in our country, and how much better society was. And it doesn't mean that we have to start Bible thumping, every
No,
day, as much as
no.
it just means that we've got to make people conscious of their decisions and how it affects society in a way that sometimes involves morality. I'll leave it at that, because I could go on forever about it. Exactly right. But
Yeah.
my point is, we can look at making people responsible again, which is a morality
Mm-hmm.
issue. But personal responsibility parallels morality, and it's something that
Mm-hmm.
we are taught in school. Can be taught in schools. It's something that we
It
can learn
is.
from having strong communities. And I
Yeah.
like that
Oh.
you kind of tie that in
Mm-hmm.
together with that. Are you there?
Well, when you think of the foundation, yeah, when you start to, can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine now. Yes.
Hi. Okay. Well, when you take away a foundation of a building, what happens to it? Doesn't it
Crumbles.
crumble and implode? Okay. You take away a foundation of a society, which is a moral structure, which we were created as the United States to be, and that trickles down right here to Louisiana. And so when we're talking about morals, we're talking about not politically correct verbiage or activity,
Right.
but a standard by which we all live. And even the 10 Commandments, you don't have to be a religious person. They're basic stuff. Don't kill, don't steal, don't sleep with your friend's wife. You stay on a foundational truth as a society where there comes right and wrong. It's more black and white. It's not gray. And it's not telling anyone how to live. It's giving suggestions of what we can see is a better way to live, and time has proven that from the past.
So a couple more questions here before we close out.
Okay.
One is let's take that morality and right or wrong, as you put it, and parallel that to the actions of a state rep.
Okay.
When you get to Baton Rouge, sometimes and not saying that legislators are always faced with a decision between right or wrong, and depends on what side of the issue you're on, whether you're seeing it as right or wrong. Will you take that same structure to Baton Rouge with you? And sometimes there might be a decision to make that might be slightly wrong in one sense, but it's right by the opinions of, say, lobbyists or special interest groups. Are you going to follow that structure, or which structure will you follow, shall I say?
Good question. I'll follow the foundation upon which I build my life. And that is biblical foundation about right and wrong, good and evil. And even in the situation where you're looking at a bill or a law that would be helpful to the majority of citizenry, but you've got lobbyists and other people that would gain if it was voted on a different way. I'm not a politician. I never have been. I won't ever be. I will be working for my constituents. They're the ones that hired me if they choose to elect me to do this position. Therefore, that's who I'll be voting for. What's best for my community? What's best for my state? And the other pull, I trust that I will not be pulled in any direction except from the foundation upon which I'm representing these people.
Now, I want to say the last question, but sometimes another question comes to my mind. But my last question, is on freedom and liberty. I'm always talking about freedom and liberty on my other show forums, and I believe that freedom and liberty is under attack. On a spiritual side, Jennie, let me be honest here. Let me be honest. It's a bad way to say it, but let me be direct.
Okay.
Let me be direct.
Okay.
I believe that our freedoms and liberties were granted to us by our Creator.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that our Creator put the people in place that created our Constitution that protects our freedoms and liberties.
Yes.
But I believe that in our country right now, freedom and liberty is under attack.
Very much so.
I believe that there's a lot of ways, and we don't always see the ways. Sometimes, one example, I think that when elected officials spend our money frivolously, or they allow government to grow, it is yet another way that our freedoms are under attack. That being said, how you as a legislator do what will you do rather, or how important is it to you to protect our freedom and liberty on a state level?
Number one.
How will you put
it's number one of importance. You have to do that one situation at a time, one interaction at a time. I mean, there'll never be a busting of the cap that will keep the state in debt and affect every citizen. We'll eliminate state income tax so that people will have money in their pockets to pay their bills and keep their small businesses alive and going. And we will fight for that freedom. Any bill or any effort of anyone, like an overreach of government, we have to shrink government. It's way out of control. Their budget is way out of control. And the previous leadership has done that to us the last 8 years, and that has to be reversed. Government overreach in any area, whether it's health and wellness, whether it's economy or anything else, has got to stop. And our freedoms and our liberties should be number one, whether it's gun control and those laws, everything that we as citizens, according to our United States Constitution and our Louisiana Constitution, says we have been bestowed. We legislatures have to fight to keep it and not let anything be put together that would stifle that.
Jennie, I cannot wait to see all the wonderful things that you can do and all the great places you can go. I want to give you one final word. Is there anything you want to say before we close out? Because, I want to give you the final word.
What I want to say to all the citizens of my district and of my city and my state is, in the times that are coming upon us, don't fear. Even in this election, don't fear the results of and the efforts that we're trying to make to turn our state around and our city around. Don't fear, have confidence, but vote wisely. Don't just vote because you've known someone forever and ever. Look at candidates, look at voting records, look at the situations we have, and use wisdom and discernment in making your choices so that you can be a part of the solution for the state.
Jennie, how can people find you?
JennieSeals.com is my webpage, and JennieSealsForYou@gmail.com is my email. Love to hear from anybody about any concerns they have, critical input or constructive input to me. I welcome that as well.
Jennie, thank you so much for being on there. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, William, for having me. Have a blessed evening.
You too. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.